So, Tom here from the Run Testers with another running shoe versus. In this video, we're going to be looking at the Asics Megablast and the Brooks Hyperion Max 3. Let's take a look. The Asics Megablast costs £210 or $225. It weighs 225 grams or 7.9 ounces for men in a size 8, and the drop is 8mm. The Brooks Hyperion Max 3 costs £170 or $200. It weighs 288 grams or 10.2 ounces for men in a size 8, and the drop is 6mm. The Megablast is the new super trainer on the block, following on from the widespread popularity of the excellent Superblast and Superblast 2. It's a running shoe designed to deliver a lightweight, responsive ride across a range of sessions, aiming for increased versatility over its older siblings. It does that with an FF Turbo squared midsole designed to balance a cushioned and smooth ride with a high level of energy return with each step. The Asics Grip outsole is built to enhance traction and control, supporting smooth acceleration and efficient energy use, and the engineered woven upper is both lightweight and breathable, keeping your feet cool when picking up the pace. The Hyperion Max 3 is a super trainer designed for daily miles, faster sessions and tempo efforts, and this time it receives some big upgrades across the whole shoe. The biggest of those is the new midsole build, as well as a healthy increase in stack height by 10mm from the previous version, making it a true max stacked shoe. It now combines a top layer of the brand's energetic DNA Gold foam with a lower level of responsive DNA Flash V2. Sandwiched between them is a Speedvault plate to add stability and propulsion. The upper is a stretchy knit with the tongue built into the design, and the outsole features a modest layer of road track rubber.
So when it comes to the fit of these two shoes, I've got the same size in both, which is a UK 9, US 10. That's the same size I use across the Asics and Brooks range in general. I've got a good fit with both, I'd say, for length. Both have a comfortable amount of room from the toes. I think the Asics is maybe slightly tighter fitting around the toes than the Hyperion Max 3, but both of them had enough room for runs of any length and running down hills, that kind of thing. Asics got no concerns at all with the fit. Good hold around the heel and midfoot, very comfortable. A nice amount of padding without going too far. The Brooks is a bit more oppressive, I would say, the upper all round. There's a lot going on. It's that booty style fit with lots of foam there as well, but actually on the run it felt pretty good to me. If you're someone who's not a fan of overly present uppers, you might not like it quite as much, but yeah, it was fine for me on the run, even on long runs. So yeah, good fit with both in my normal size.
Fit then, and in testing I ran in a UK 8.5, US 9.5, which is my regular size in both the Asics and the Brooks. When it comes to the Max 3, I found the integrated booty style design provided a pretty good fit. It's probably not as roomy and as free as we got from the old Hyperion Max 2. That shoe was so accommodating up into the forefoot, and I found it ace for that. The Max 3 has a much more kind of close and hugging fit. There is flex, and I get enough length and enough wiggle room across the toe box, but this setup is more racy. You've got those quite kind of minimal heel collars and a sort of really wrapped feel. So while I was perfectly happy in my regular size for those test runs that went up to a couple of hours, I'm not convinced I would back it necessarily for like a really long sort of 7 or 8 hours ultra like I did for the Max 2. Now for the Megablast, I found the fit generally worked well. I found the uppers light, airy, breathable. They're more racy than the Superblast, and I generally like the fit of this shoe. The midfoot secures nicely. You've got that kind of lace lock style laces, which helps get everything nice and tied down. All of that felt well held and secure. Now, even though the heels also have a sort of race shoe like design, there is a lot of padding on the insides of those heels, and I think that makes for good hold and comfort. The only real issue I had with the Megablast was initially up front in the toe box on the outer side, where the taper is quite dramatic, and that leads to a little slight lack of clearance on the outside edge. And I did suffer some toe rubbing of my little toes on the early runs I did. That seemed to ease off the more time I spent in the shoe, so I don't know whether the uppers sort of flexed a bit. And on the 4.5 hour marathon test, it was actually okay. Now you can get that kind of tighter sort of toe rubbing from shoes with a racier fit, but I'm just saying it as it's maybe one to watch if your feet are wider or you prefer more room to splay. Maybe you want to consider looking at half a size up in the Megablast, but I would stick true to size in the Brooks.
Fit for me in these two shoes is pretty similar. I'm a size 8 in the UK. These are both size 8s. There's a similar amount of room before my big toe, which is probably about the amount most people want. So I'd definitely say stay to your UK size in both of these shoes. The upper is actually pretty similar when it comes to width as well. I've got very average with feet, and I'm pretty much there at the limit. I can feel my feet pushing a little bit at the sides. So exactly the same for the Hyperion Max 3. The upper in both of these is quite similar. It's a fairly light design. The Megablast is a little bit thinner, a little bit more flexible, but I definitely stay to my UK size 8 in both of these shoes.
Now in testing, I have done north of 100 miles across a whole range of paces in the Megablast. That included a 4.5 hour solo marathon test. You can find that video up on the channel. I also did like a 19-minute 5k in all of that testing as well. So I've done sort of right across the pace ranges. I've got less in the Hyperion Max 3, probably closer to 40 miles. And that might already be a giveaway as to which of these shoes I prefer, but we'll get to more of that later. Now with the Hyperion Max, what you now get is a sort of heavier, very high cushion shoe that's lively, but it's nowhere near as direct or immediate in the return as its predecessor, the Hyperion Max 2. It's a very changed shoe, this one. And I think if you're looking for a marathon pace workhorse that offers a good balance of energy and bounce but stays controlled, then the Hyperion Max 3 works well. But there's a lot of shoes that probably do that come in a bit cheaper. When it comes to the faster efforts, it can handle faster paces. I did like 5.5 minute sort of miles at a park run, and that's a testament to that. But it's definitely not as punchy or as snappy as some of the other faster tuned shoes, like you're going to get the Endorphin Speed 5 or the Hoka Mach X3. And in that sense, I think this shoe is a bit more sort of tame than those shoes. And I probably reach for something different for my fastest sessions. And that may well be the Megablast. I think the Megablast is an excellent shoe that builds on the Superblast with a lightness and energy, sort of added raciness that definitely gives it a dose of added marathon and half marathon potential, both for training for those events and for racing them. I think a lot of runners, particularly those who love a big stack that's sort of softer and bouncier, will really like this shoe. It can handle a lot across the pace ranges, though I do think personally it's a bit sluggish at the lower end. I like something that has a bit more agility as well at the top end. But when you hit the marathon pace sweet spot, the Megablast is really, truly an excellent shoe. It's smooth, energetic. It's an excellent road eater that will happily clip along for miles. I can see people racing a marathon in these as a non-plated option. I don't see the same being true of the Hyperion Max 3. I also did a side-by-side mile with one of these on each foot, and here's what I found. So I've just done my side-by-side mile. I've got the Megablast on the left foot, I've got the Hyperion Max 3 on the right foot, just to tease out those kind of finer detailed differences. Let's start with how they feel on the foot. Big difference here is basically the roominess in the forefoot. The Megablast offers much more room for the toes to splay. They've both got quite sort of racy fits, but the Hyperion Max 3 is much snugger. There's sort of less wiggle room into the forefoot, so everything just feels a bit more dialed in. It's a bit more race-like. Then when you sort of look at what's going on under the foot in the midsole, I think the major difference here is just the softer edge that you're getting from the Megablast. It is relying much more on a kind of sink and bounce return sort of setup. They've got almost sort of similar stacks of cushioning. You feel higher, I think, in the Hyperion Max 3. And the other thing to note is the Hyperion Max 3 is much more kind of blocky underfoot. That foam doesn't sink as much, it returns quicker. It's kind of almost sort of rolling you with a bit more sort of snap, but you're not going to get that kind of full softness that you get from the Megablast. And there's not quite as much bounce coming through either. One area where I think that might kind of divide people is the Megablast sort of softness when you're going slower. I find that you're having to work a little bit harder to get out of the shoe or out of each kind of step in the shoe if you're moving a lot slower. Whereas the Hyperion Max 3, it's almost like you're right off straight away because it's a bit sort of firmer underfoot. That foam doesn't sink as low, but it does feel to me more blocky, and I think that sort of translates a little bit when you pick up the pace as well, where when you get to that marathon pace, I think the Megablast is just a smoother, slightly more natural feeling shoe.
Okay, so these are two super trainers, and super trainers that are designed to do a similar thing, which is faster efforts, longer training sessions, where you want efficiencies, you want performance, and you don't want to use a sort of daily shoe, an easy shoe to do that. You want a shoe that's really designed for doing that. Let's start with the Brooks Hyperion Max 3, actually. Let's start with that one. So this is a shoe that is a big change from the previous version of the shoe. The previous version was a little bit leaner, a little bit close to the ground, a little bit less cushioning, and a lot of people liked that shoe for that reason, because it's a little bit more traditional and conventional in how it was designed for faster training sessions. The Brooks Hyperion Max 3, there's quite a lot of shoe to this. It's a big chunky shoe. There's a lot of cushioning in it. It's got this DNA gold in it, which is designed to be give you energy return, be a bit bouncy, and it's a shoe that I think is fine. It's a shoe that if you're going out and you want to pick up the pace and go out for a faster training session, I think it feels quite nice. It's a shoe that I definitely don't reach for very often if I'm specifically training for a fast race, but it's not bad at it. I probably say that it's a shoe that it feels a bit clunkier. It doesn't feel particularly light in comparison to the Megablast, so you can really feel it on your feet, but it does feel nice and a little bit bouncy as well. So for me, I would say this is a shoe that really excels when you're doing those longer efforts where you want to maintain a nice consistent pace. You're probably not going to go out and do intervals in this shoe because it's a bit cumbersome for that, but it's definitely a shoe that helps you maintain training. If you're training for a marathon and you're going out for 30k and you need to maintain 4 minute 30 kilometers or something on that, which is sort of my marathon training pace, it's pretty good for that. It feels good, it feels smooth, it protects the legs, do you get a nice bit of energy return from it. Very good, really, for that purpose. For me, it's not great at easy runs. It doesn't really feel very at home doing a nice easy pace run, and especially when you're picking up the pace and trying to. I wouldn't use this for intervals or anything. It just feels a little bit too cumbersome for that. So it's really got a sweet spot. Whereas the Megablast, it doesn't really have a sweet spot. It's a jack of all trades that does most things very well. The only thing I would say that it doesn't do really well as easy runs. I wouldn't use this shoe for easy runs anyway because it's very expensive and I'd want to save it for those faster sessions. But this midsole, it's very light, it's very responsive and bouncy. It just doesn't want to do an easy run. It wants to make you go faster, which is fine because you probably don't want to spend lots of money on a shoe and then go out and just go an easy run in it. But it is so versatile. You can go out and do interval sessions in this and it just picks it up. It looks like quite a big shoe, but it doesn't feel like that. It feels like a very light, nippy shoe. So intervals, fartleks, hill training, anything like that feels absolutely great. Get a nice bit of bounce from it. For the longer sessions, if you're training for a marathon, say you were going out and doing 30k, it would be better than the Brooks for me, just because it feels really smooth and just knocks you forward really nicely. Just a great transition. I did Loch Ness Marathon in the Megablast, and I wasn't aiming for a time. I just went out and wanted to maintain a consistent pace. I just got out 5 minute kilometers. It just felt so easy. It just feels comfortable on the feet. You get bounced back from it. It feels efficient, and by the end of the run, it just felt so comfortable to wear, and it was helping me along the way. So if you're a 4-hour marathon runner, or you're going out and doing longer distance races, and you want a shoe that feels a bit more comfortable than maybe a carbon plate race shoe, one of those options that are out there, Megablast is a great option. So between these two shoes, I think there's a big difference in the where they sit in that sort of performance realm. I think the Brooks Hyperion Max 3 is fine. I think you definitely wear it and go, this is a good training shoe for running longer distances at a more consistent, steady pace, but that's about it. And then the Megablast just does everything. It's a far superior shoe.
When it comes to the run test, I've done about 210 kilometers now in the Asics Megablast, about 60 kilometers in the Brooks Hyperion Max 3, which does give an indication of which shoe I prefer. I'm a huge fan of the Asics Megablast, and the Brooks Hyperion Max is not really one I've gone back to since we tested it for our initial review. Well, I did those runs in the Brooks. We had it in first. I did enjoy it for certain types of runs, especially long runs. My first run in the shoe was a pretty relaxed long run where I upped the pace a little bit towards the end, and it was really good for that. Comfortable, good cruising along at a range of paces if you're not going to go too fast. Did some long downhills in that run. It's certainly a very protective shoe, the kind of shoe you could see using for a lot of miles during marathon training, and it would give you quite a nice ride all round. Then I've done some fast stuff in it as well, and when it's kind of daily training stuff, easy to steady runs, it's okay going through the gears, but it doesn't really give you the performance level of a super trainer with a plate, I'd say. Got good foam in there as well, but it's quite a big shoe, it's quite heavy. It doesn't really have the pace you expect, I think, from a shoe like this. And when you are running with a bit more purpose, going out to do some kind of intervals or something like that, it would definitely not be my first pick from this kind of super trainer category. I think it's just really a shoe that's much more built for daily training, which is fine. It does a pretty good job of that, but it's a pretty expensive shoe for that. There's a lot of stuff going on in the midsole to just produce what I think is just kind of an okay ride all round. Whereas Megablast, it does feel like something quite special. It's obviously crazy expensive. We'll talk more about that in the verdict, but it's one of the most versatile, if not the most versatile shoe on the market. I've loved it for everything. I've done, like I say, over 200 kilometers in it now, and I've done everything in that time. Very easy runs, recovery runs, hard long tempo runs, proper interval sessions, doing K reps. Did a park run in 16:30 in it. It really can do everything, and it's got certainly more pace than the Hyperion Max 3, I would say. You've got a really responsive ride here from that FF Turbo squared foam in the midsole. Loads of pop off the toes, feels really nice for those faster efforts as a result. It's a lighter shoe as well, and it transitions a lot quicker than the Hyperion Max 3 as well. Like, this is a really high stack shoe, and you are getting a good amount of protection. I think it is comfortable, and also quite stable. The Megablast got a nice wide base, but then you have got that extra gear to it, which I didn't really find I had when I was running in the Brooks Hyperion Max 3. Did do a short run in both shoes at the same time, and it was quite surprising actually. The Brooks doesn't feel a lot heavier than the Megablast in that run. Like, it is a fair bit heavier, but it's not a crazy heavy shoe. Like, the weight isn't such a big problem if it had, I think, a livelier combination of foams in the midsole, but with the way it's set up, it does feel just quite ponderous. It doesn't really throw you forward or transition quickly. It's providing a decent amount of support, but even then there are cutouts which affect its stability a little bit, and yeah, it just ends up a shoe that I think is really only good for those kind of long runs. And like, yeah, if you're marathon training, you're doing lots of runs every day, and you want a shoe that's going to carry you through them comfortably, but have a bit of bounce to it, a bit of pace to it, it does an okay job for that. But I think there are shoes doing that for a lot less than this. Whereas the Megablast is very expensive, but it's a kind of one of a kind shoe. I do think, like I say, it's exceptionally versatile. It transitions very quickly, and when you want to go fast, it goes really fast. If you want to ease back, it's comfortable. It's soft at the back without being unstable. It just does everything really very well.
So my verdict on these two shoes, pretty easy. I think there are a lot of super trainers out there at the moment, and comparing them is not always like for like. They're not trying to do the same thing. But I think these two really are. I think both of these shoes are designed to be part of a training, part of your training rotation, where you want to have a shoe to do all of your faster training sessions in before race day. I just don't think the Brooks Hyperion Max does many of those. I think it really does consistent pace, long sessions well. It's comfortable. It's got a big sturdy cushioned midsole. It just doesn't feel like a shoe that can do a lot more. I think it's fine. I think it's comfortable, and I'm happy to use it. I just for the money, I just don't think you get as much from it as you do with the Megablast, which just does everything. It's an incredible shoe. I know it's expensive, but people are happy to pay that price because it really does tick more of those performance boxes than you get with a lot of other shoes. So out of these two shoes, I'd say get the Megablast. The only reason I'd say get the Hyperion Max 3 is maybe if you only were doing those longer sessions and you could get it a bit cheaper, and maybe if you wanted a little bit more support and stability, because it's a little bit of a sturdier shoe. So if maybe you're a bit heavier or newer to running, you might want to go for the Hyperion Max 3. But really, the Megablast is not unstable or anything either. It's just got a slightly less dense midsole.
So it comes to my verdict on these two shoes. Like, the Asics Megablast is a lot more expensive, but I think it is worth the upgrade on the Brooks Hyperion Max 3, which is a pretty expensive shoe itself. Like, I think whatever you're looking for here, whether it's a daily trainer to do a slight variety of runs in, one shoe to do absolutely everything in, a speed trainer to add to your rotation, long run shoe, I think the Megablast just does all of those runs a little bit better. And the Brooks Hyperion Max 3 is a perfectly good shoe, but not one that I think really merits its high price tag. I think you can get an equal level of performance of shoes for less, whereas the Megablast is a standout shoe on the market, and it is really expensive, and paying that much for an all-round like this doesn't all feel great. I think if you're looking outside of these two shoes, you can certainly get really good shoes much nearer the kind of £130 mark, £150 mark. But in this comparison directly, I'll definitely get the Asics Megablast. I just find it a much more enjoyable shoe for any kind of run. If you're dead against paying for the Asics, I wouldn't get the Brooks though. I'd look at other super trainers that are more around its price, like the Hoka Mach X3, Nike Zoom Fly 6. Really good plated shoes that have a bit more versatility. The Brooks just feels like it moved too much into this cruiser category and almost ends up an easy day shoe with a plate. And it's okay, but I don't really find I have much need for that kind of shoe myself, whereas the Megablast is a shoe I'd look forward to taking out on any kind of run.
Verdict then, and if we're judging purely on the ride, then I think the Megablast is the more accomplished shoe. For me, it's smoother, more natural, it's lighter, it gives back more energy, particularly when you're moving with intent around marathon pace, which I think is one of its kind of core purposes for existing. At the very slowest efforts, the Hyperion Max 3's firmness and more immediate feedback works better for me. I find the Megablast a bit soft and sluggish. I prefer a shoe that gives a bit more instant feedback. You're not dragging yourself out of a soft, sinky shoe. But I do think a lot of runners are the opposite to me, and that these two shoes aren't really designed with that kind of core purpose of the easiest of easy miles, and there are other shoes out there that will cater for that. The weight difference is notable as well, and that's also a drawback for the Hyperion Max 3 when you go beyond marathon pace. However, if you factor in the price difference, particularly in the UK, there's maybe an argument for the Hyperion Max 3, but I'd say only if your budget can't stretch to the Megablast. If it can, my recommendation would be to 100% go with the Megablast from these two shoes.
That's it from us on this Versus. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and click that little bell. And if you're going to catch and blow, you can find it to our podcast, which comes out a couple of times each month. Thanks a lot for watching. Catch you next time.